I haven't studied his platform in the closest possible detail, I'm ashamed to admit. I think Barr's support, as I saw it, from being a pretty mean guy in an early congressional career, I think his coming out for civil liberties and stuff was very good. And I'm frankly, and I support almost any ticket that's running against the major tickets. I mean, within reason. I don't want to hook myself to some really, you know, racist or whatever. But you know, I support Ralph. I wish Ralph well. I just think he's stupid the way he's gone about it. And so therefore, I think anything that gets promoted as presenting a real alternative, a criticism of the two major candidates, is good.
Alex, as one who considers himself a left libertarian, and I remind my fellow libertarians here that Bastiat sat with Proudhon on the left side of the French Assembly, and also as one who's been proudly published on Counterpunch's site, what can we do not only to further this association that you mentioned at the end, but maybe even turn it into something of an alliance with the truly, genuinely anti-state elements of the left?
Well, that's a good question. Inquiry was one of the brightest lights of the... I remember when I was in New York, and you know, suddenly this magazine was there, Inquiry, which had a bunch of people which would normally regarded on the right, and then a bunch of people like Chomsky, and I was honored to be in it and so forth, and we have Sheldon to thank for this. I think there has to be, you know, I mean, maybe a battle of ideas. There are some big issues that potentially divide or can have to be sorted through. You know, views of the role of, I think any leftist, one of my earliest memories is of Wright Patman, who was chairman of the House Banking Committee. And in those days, 5 to go, I'll try and keep it short because there's people there. Patman was a dirty hater of the Federal Reserve. And he used to say to the chairman of the time, any reason why you shouldn't be in the penitentiary? That was his first question. So they bounced Patman out of there. So but I think a battle of the ideas, maybe one a year, would be a lot of fun. We should talk about it. I hope we do.
Thank you for your eloquence and your wit. In a recent conversation with Cy Hirsch, he and I were talking about covert and overt military privatization in a larger strategic context, collaboration with British and Blackwater and other things. But he was very fatalistic, and he said, you know, Robert, it's all over the place. Now, these are libertarians here. I'm not entirely in that tradition, but I've been involved in this thing, and what I know about what's going on in the longer light of British history and the East India Company, I see these new feudalities developing in privatization, combinations of sort of special operations forces, special technical operations, and finance and merchant. I'd be very grateful with your insight, I don't know if you've written on this, for you to comment on this phenomenon in a larger sense of this outsourcing, this move to privatization and combinations, not just some of the origins with executive outcomes at Sandline, but what's going on here and in China and Russia. Thank you.
Well, privatization, a lot of it is simply, you know, escaping, you know, any kind of oversight. If you like, it was a little bit like the Contra arms shuffle of the 80s when you were outsourcing to these supposedly private planes, or before that in Vietnam when they claimed that Air America was a private enterprise, which in the ultimate sense it wasn't. And I think, of course, this will grow. This will grow. For corrupt reasons, that they'll pump money into it and you won't be able to account for the money. I mean, the greatest thievery in the history of the world has been going on in Iraq. And there's never really been any case. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars disappear. Hundreds of millions. Either into the pockets of US people who were retained as consultants out there, or into local contractors, you name it. One of the great orgies of thievery in the history of the planet. So yeah, it's an ongoing and will expand, I'm sure.
As a younger person, I just want to thank you for bringing up some of the Obama as, you know, war hawk guy, because you know, you don't hear as much of that out there. But I'm curious as to what you think in the future, the stuff with South America. I know, like, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago I read there was Chavez, Hugo Chavez, they discovered was exchanging like hundreds of emails with FARC leaders They began like tying money to him because, of course, Colombia is trying to get in with us. I'm just curious how you think someone like Obama or McCain would deal with a guy like Chavez, who is going to probably be dealing with terrorist organizations like FARC.
Sorry, I'm missing. I can't.
Oh, is it not loud enough?
No, you were talking fast. I didn't get the last bit. I got most of your question. Just the last couple.
Just a guy like Chavez, who's just another like just bad presence. He's going to be dealing with terrorists, I'm sure. And I mean, like I said, they just tied him to FARC. Of course, he's denying it, but I'm just curious if you see any flare-ups there, and what a guy like Obama would do, or what a guy like McCain would do.
With Chavez?
Yeah.
Alexander's going to do the last question.
That's it? Oh, okay. I'll see you later.
Answer, please.
Yeah, no, I'll answer. Well, I think Chavez, I mean, if he's always on his email, he shouldn't be, they should pull him off the email after an hour or two. But if he wants to write 100 emails to the FARC, he's perfectly entitled to. If Colombia, instigated by the U.S., is being pressed to attack him and to send people across his borders, which they've done, then he has every right to seek out means of defense with his neighbors. I don't think Chavez, I support Chavez. I think in his presidency, and he is, after all, democratically elected, and he has obeyed the edicts thus far of the various referenda, which he sought to expand his power. I think he's been a very good thing for Venezuela. He spread some of the money for a change. You know, one kleptocracy after another stretches the length and breadth of Latin America. I think, no doubt, people are stealing in Venezuela, but I think they're stealing less, and more people who are decent, poor people are getting the money. So I think Obama should stop posturing about Chavez. If he wants to really, someone should drop what the U.S. really needs to do, which is to stop certainly allying itself with Colombia, which has a right-wing regime which is butchering labor organizers every day we speak. Every day we speak, they're butchering, in the most hideous circumstances, people whom they regard as opponents. So when Obama speaks about endorsing Colombia, does that mean he's also endorsing the trade pact? I don't know. It's all a mystery. What the U.S. needs to do is precisely to a U.S. leader to abandon this rhetoric that he has any right to start dictating the future of people in other countries in quite the way that he does. And one final sentence. In a way, I'll feel a little bit nostalgic for the Bush years in one sense. It's good in a way that the empire is run by a true incompetent. You know, an efficiently run empire is not a pretty sight. And the fact that we've had a dunderhead of his proportions at the wheel for 8 years is not a totally unmixed curse. So thank you very much.